Hi, my name is Alfred, and I welcome you to the first lesson of a new series I am creating for novice developers. I'm creating this series to help people transition from their current career to web development. Do you want to skip the high cost associated with traditional courses that may add to your stress or worsen imposter syndrome? As someone who successfully transitioned from a nurse to a self-taught developer, I will provide you with first-hand guidance to advance you from a novice to a proficient web developer. Let's learn and work towards our goals together. What we're about to discuss is often overlooked as a prerequisite for software development. Learning how the internet works is often skipped by novice web developers when starting out their self-taught career. Its relevance may not be obvious in the short term, but in the long run, it's vital to understand how things work under the hood when creating web applications. This lesson delves into the fundamentals of how the internet works, catering to novice web developers, and is crucial to establishing a strong foundational knowledge to build upon. What is the internet? The simple answer is that the internet is the foundation that makes the web possible. It is a network of computers that communicate with each other. To understand what a network is, let us build one from scratch. Assume the internet does not exist and you want to communicate with a friend. You have your computer and they have their computer as well. This is what you could do. You could grab an Ethernet cable and connect directly to your friend's computer and you'll be able to exchange messages. Say a third friend wants to join this group. Now you'll need 3 Ethernet cables and 2 ports per computer. Say more of your friends find this private group chat interesting and want to join. Subsequently, there are 10 of you. You will need 45 cables and 9 ports per computer to be able to connect directly to each other in order to exchange messages. There's an obvious problem here. The more we have people joining the group, the more complicated the cable connections and the ports required get. To solve this problem, we need a device called a router. Currently, there are 10 of you, but we'll separate you into 2 groups of 5 computers each. Each computer in one group will need 1 Ethernet cable to connect directly to the router in that group. That means the connections will no longer be made directly between computers. Messages must have a destination address before they are sent to the router, which will read this address and then forward it to the destination computer. Now you have 2 separate groups that communicate internally but not across the group. To be able to communicate across the group, we will need an additional Ethernet cable to connect the routers of both groups. To send messages across the group, one router will forward them to the other router. The role of the routers essentially is to forward messages to their destination or intended computers. The internet is a network of networks. What do I mean by that? Let's say a third group of friends, yet again, find our setup interesting and want to join. In order to accommodate them, we will need a third router to facilitate message forwarding across the 3 groups. What we've managed to accomplish so far is quite interesting. Now let's stretch our imagination even further. What if the whole world expresses interest in joining our little network? How will we manage the necessary cables and routers required for global connectivity? The complexity of such connections will be overwhelming. Fortunately, we don't have to tackle this on our own. We can leverage the existing network infrastructure. Internet service providers, ISPs, are companies that furnish the routers and telecommunication line access required to enable communication between devices on the internet. Some examples of ISPs include AT&T, T-Mobile, AfriHost, MTN, and Vodacom. When we connect to an ISP, messages from our routers are forwarded to the routers of the ISP through telephone lines and subsequently forwarded to the routers of other networks worldwide. This is essentially what comprises the internet, an interconnected network infrastructure. How then are computers found on the internet? When you send a package from your home to another house, you need to specify a delivery address. As we've already established, messages also need a destination computer address, which routers use to forward the message to the right computer on the network. How do computers get addresses? Every computer that connects to the internet is assigned a special address called an IP address. IP stands for Internet Protocol. Unlike house addresses, an IP address consists of 4 numbers separated by dots. For example, 192.168.1.254. Humans don't want to necessarily memorize telephone numbers. We could do that, but it wouldn't be the best use of our time. We instead use mobile apps to assign names to telephone numbers for easy reference. Similarly, we don't need to memorize the IP addresses of computers on the internet. We assign names to IP addresses called domain names. Like the phone book of the internet, domain names such as google.com or facebook.com and their corresponding IP addresses are stored on special computers on the internet called domain name servers. All computers have the IP address of domain name servers built in by default. This means they can retrieve the IP address of any domain name. More on this later. Now let's discuss the World Wide Web. You should understand that the internet is not the web. I believe you now have ample knowledge to effectively differentiate between the internet and the web. The internet, as we've established, is a network infrastructure that enables communication between computers worldwide. The web is a service that runs on the internet. Here's an analogy. Just as telephone wires, phone masts, transmitters, etc. are the physical infrastructure that makes up telephone communication, text messaging and phone calls are services that run on this infrastructure. Likewise, the web is one of the services that runs on the internet. Email is another type of service that runs on the internet. We use special software called web browsers that run on our computer to access other computers called web servers to retrieve websites. This essentially is the web. Let's now discuss network protocols and packets. By now, we understand how networks are set up and interconnected through routers and ISPs, but we do not yet know exactly how messages are transmitted between one computer to another on the internet. Let's have a look. Let's say you open a messaging app on the web and send a message to a friend. The message will be converted from alphabetic text into electronic signals on your computer and transmitted over cables, routers, and ISPs over several networks to the destination computer. When the electronic signals reach your friend's computer, they will be converted back into alphabetic text which your friend can read. How this is accomplished exactly is through the use of what is referred to as the network protocol stack. A network protocol is an established set of rules that determine how messages or data are transmitted between different devices on the same network. These rules enable the devices to communicate with each other on the network. As humans, speaking a common language helps us to interact with each other globally, regardless of the differences in our culture. Similarly, network protocols make it possible for devices to talk to each other regardless of the differences in their make or design. This predetermined set of rules are built into every device's software and hardware. The Internet Protocol Stack operates through layers of network protocols that work in unison to enable the functionality of the web on the internet. This hierarchical structure ensures the smooth flow of data and communication across networks, allowing for the seamless operation of various internet services and applications. Each layer plays a specific role in managing and transmitting data, thus contributing to the overall functionality of the internet. We will cover the basic layers by tracing tracing the path of a message from one computer to another over the internet. If a message is too long to be sent in one piece, it is split into smaller pieces called packets. This is important because if a large message is sent through the network, it would prevent any other person from sending another message until the first message is fully transmitted. That's not good. Packets allow messages to be sent in little pieces so that all messages can be transmitted simultaneously. When a message is sent, it begins at the application layer. The application layer is where specific network protocols for applications are located. The most well-known one is the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTTP, which enables the transfer of documents and media on the web. Other protocols at this layer include Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, SMTP, for emails, File Transfer Protocol, FTP, for file transfer, and DNS for domain name resolution. When the message leaves the application layer, it goes through the transport layer. The transport layer brings down the message into packets and assigns each packet a port number. A port number is an address for a specific application running on a computer. We use port numbers because different internet services like the web, email, and FTP all operate on a single computer. We need a way to ensure that messages are delivered to the correct service. To do this, services listen for messages on a specific port number that is unique to that service. The packets then proceed to the network or IP layer where they are assigned their destination IP address. After receiving the IP address and port number, the messages proceed to the hardware layer. At this stage, the messages are converted from alphabetic text to electric signals and transmitted through a series of routers and ISPs to reach their destination computer. When packets arrive at the destination computer, they start at the bottom of the network stack and make their way from the hardware layer upwards through to the application layer. The electric signals are converted into alphabetic text and reassembled back into their original form. Here's a summary of network protocol layers and their functions. Let's have a look at clients and servers. The internet is made up of a network of computers that consist of clients and servers. Clients can be any device connected to the internet, such as PCs, smartphones, and IoT devices. The web browser, as we mentioned briefly, is a software that runs on client computers. They are used to request web pages from web servers and displayed to the user. Web servers, on the other hand, are computers dedicated to storing web pages. They serve clients who request these web pages to be displayed to the user. Do you know what happens when you enter a URL into a web browser? A uniform resource locator URL, also known as a web address, is the address of a specific web page or file on the internet. It is what you type into the address bar of your browser. It could be a domain name or an IP address. Let us examine the basics of what happens when you type a URL into the address bar of your browser. When you enter a URL into your browser, it connects to the domain name server to get the corresponding IP address of the web server for that domain. For example, if you enter www.google.com, the IP address 142.251.35.164 is retrieved from the DNS. This is known as domain name resolution. It is a process that converts domain names into IP addresses. If you enter the IP address of a website directly into the address bar, the browser recognizes it as an IP address and doesn't need to go through domain name resolution. The browser then connects to the web server with the resolved IP address through an initial request and then sends an HTTP request via the Internet Protocol protocol stack to the web server for the desired web page. The web server receives the request and checks if the requested page exists on its storage. The web server responds with the web page if it exists. However, if the server cannot find the requested page, it will respond with an HTTP 404 error message. 404 is an HTTP status code. In this case, it means page not found. More on HTTP status codes later. The browser then receives the requested page or the error message and the connection is closed. It then reads the web page code and then requests other elements like images, video or audio files. The browser will display the complete web page or an error message if the page was not found. In this lesson, we learned about the basics of how the internet works. We started by discussing what networks are, and we established that the internet is a massive network infrastructure. We then built a network from scratch. Next, we discussed how computers are located on the internet using IP addresses. After that, we looked at the web as one of the services that runs on the internet. We also discussed the rules governing communication between devices known as the network protocol and examined HTTP, the protocol of the web. Finally, we described clients and servers as computers on the internet and looked at what happens every time you type a URL into your web browser. In the upcoming lesson, we will delve deeper into URLs and how resources are retrieved from the server. I hope you found this lesson useful. I am looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Keep up the good work.